next thing. It's going to connect two things in one. So, when someone is dishonest, when someone breaks your trust, when someone wrongs you, I mean, it's all the same. The trust, the focus on dishonesty or trust, I feel like is happened often. But the reality is the majority of your relationship problems comes from a lack of communication. It's simple. There's no other real answer to it, right? So, is there really a line between disloyalty and loyalty? Like, is there a line? Like, how can we really define that? Can we say, okay, at this point when they do exactly this, it means loyalty, and if they do a little bit over that, it's disloyalty? Of course not, right? It's the same hot and cold. There's no point where hot becomes cold. It just slowly goes, and it's kind of a feeling, right? That's why language is so limited, because we have this or that, right? So, like, you can't really define the feelings in which you're having just through language, but that's for another class. Now, obviously, this idea of defining where your boundaries are comes from going out of your boundaries, right? So letting your boundaries get pushed, of course, you will find it. Getting out of balance, you will find balance. That's the journey of life. If you already had balance, you wouldn't be here, right? So when we get into this idea of with another, someone breaking your trust, being disloyal to you, it comes back to the reality in which you're living versus theirs. You can't expect somebody to completely understand where you're at or what you're feeling or what you want or what your boundaries are if they haven't been communicated firstly. That's the first one. The second one was having some sort of, balance in your understanding of each other. So when one person wants one thing, the other person wants another, you find a balance in between. If it's too far off, then it dissipates. You're very rarely around people or friends with people that are not like you, right? That if you are, then it's not much of a relationship. It's constantly maybe this or constantly this. So, that's the first piece, is that communication. Now the next thing is, to one person it could be so important, to the other person it could be completely, doesn't matter. So, once again, if the communication is not there, how is the other one to know? So when it happens, and all of a sudden you get all up in arms, really it's just all up in arms because you didn't communicate and you're pissed you didn't communicate it. But besides that, this idea of the importance of one thing to one person, the importance to other, you can't make someone feel its importance. You can't tell someone, this is so important to me, feel it yourself. It doesn't work like that, right? And this connects wholeheartedly, 100%, to this idea that we're all in our own little world, right? So, you go back to this idea, I like to use extremes a lot so it really shakes you. A psychopathic killer in his own world views the killings as right. As crazy as it sounds, and to us it seems so wrong, but really who are we to tell them that he's wrong? We can tell him, of course, jail will tell him, police will tell him, but in his own world it actually won't change anything. So when you're dealing with people where there's conflicting nature of opinions, of realizations, of belief structures, the waste of energy that you're placing, pushing forwards and pushing forwards and pushing forwards, trying to get them to understand, or saying that this is wrong, or saying this is right, really has of no use. Because really we're only looking to be right. So in this egoic battle, if we're wrong, we've lost a part of ourselves. If we're wrong, we've lost something about ourselves. So if we're on a small scale with our best friend at a table, I guess I just said the table, so we're at the table. And I think this is the best dish, and he thinks this is the best dish, and for some reason we get in an argument about it because I just want to be right. And I keep going. If for some reason we still cannot come to an agreement over this small little thing, how in the world can we look at wars that are happening in the world right now, or big conflicts through politicians, all these things? How can we ever condemn them for constantly conflicting? Right, when clearly more is on the line in that sense. A country's on the line, a religious understanding, a theory, whatever. So you look at the difference of this. If we're still not able to handle these small little things through the conflict in which we're participating in, because you're participating in it, right? Then the blame shifted over here when the big wars happen it cannot exist. Because you're just condemning yourself. You're looking at yourself, right? That's the reality of this idea of focus on you and handle what you need to handle yourself, rather than looking elsewhere, looking everywhere else, comparing yourself constantly to this idea that if I'm right, if I'm wrong, if I have this, I have that, it will give me some sort of identity. Because without it, it doesn't matter. You don't have an identity, this idea of this is my personality, I'm only like this, I have this material need, I'm only going to have this, I have this certification, it means I'm this smart. It really doesn't mean that, right? Because if you lost it, right? So the beauty of this idea of us sinking into a deeper understanding about the lives that we're living is to just really sink into this idea that live your own world and stop worrying about everyone else's. I think that's what the biggest connection of all this. Because comparison, dealing with someone betraying you, dealing with trying to convince people of a reality in which you want them to live, which really you're pushing so hard for you to live that way, it's all going to come back to you. So if you simplify your life like that, we'll stop worrying about all these external things. And it doesn't just stop at relationships. It clearly will not stop there. It happens with everything, right? That will help you kind of sink into a deeper journey that you may be embarking on. And of course, that's what the meditative journey is. Sinking deeper into the moment in which you are experiencing rather than worrying about what the other person is experiencing, right? Our mothers, I find our mothers are the worst about this, right? Constantly worrying about us, constantly worrying about what we're doing, constantly worrying. And of course, it's not really negative. They're looking out for us. They're loving us. But they're removing themselves so much out of their own world. You know, my mom just like, all she does is like clean and like sew, right? So like when she doesn't have, not cleaning and sewing, she's worrying about like, how's the business going? What are you doing? Do you need food? Do you need this? Right? And it's constant worrying. But she needs to stop worrying, clearly. Because, you know, it's great to have that support, but on her, it's just doing herself a disservice, the stress, this constant, worrying, all these things inside of her. So it's that kind of detachment from everything. Go ahead.
Why does that behavior tend to become addictive? Like, it seems like once you get on a roll, you're just like trying to solve everyone's problems, forget about yourself, and it just seems like you're almost searching for, I can't explain it, but it's like almost like an addiction. And how do you let go of that?
Well, it's like what do you feel when you solve someone's problem and they're happy? Yeah, right? So it's the same idea as like we constantly set goals, we achieve them. We constantly buy things, we love them, then we throw them out. We constantly eat great food and then we feel terrible after, right? So it's like constant like everywhere, right? So by doing that, you're gonna constantly get the spike, but we talked about this, right? So you're up here, and then you're over here, and then you're up here, and then you're over here, and this is the rat race of your life.